One of the questions that I get asked a lot on my YouTube channel is how many times do I personally affirm? Or there's a lot of other variations to this question, like how many times am I supposed to affirm until I get what I want? Or even how long do I affirm in any given moment where I decide to persist in that end result that I want to experience in my physical reality. And there's a lot of other variations of this exact same question in all the different manners of manifesting that I've explained on my channel. Like, as you guys know at this point, I consider myself more of a reality selector. So what I basically do is I get into my God state and then I just pick the reality that I want to experience. And I get a lot of questions about how many times do I do this in a given day, in a given week, or even just like the rate or the consistency in which I reality select. And getting straight into it, my answer to all of these questions is actually a two-part answer. When it comes to how often I persist in a given moment that I am using my imagination to select the reality that I want to experience, I persist until I feel aligned, or until I feel neutrality. And the second part of this answer is, on a grander scale, I persist until I get what I want. So let's unpack this for a second, all right? As you guys know, if you've been following my channel for a while, the primary ways that I talk about manifesting on this channel are robotic affirming and reality selecting. Now, it's from my perspective that whatever technique or use of your imagination that you choose to use, whether this is like scripting or imaginal acts or, affirmations, inner conversations, however you choose to activate your imagination, it's from my perspective that use of your imagination is the way that you control your focus. And it's the way that you actually reality select. So, for example, from my perspective, robotic affirming is actually a form of reality selection. And one of the reasons why I like robotic affirming is because it actually does two things at once. It controls your focus and it controls your state. Reality selection is the exact same thing, but just from a different perspective or understanding. So if you guys have seen any of my videos on reality selecting, the way that I reality select, like I said, is I get back into my God state. My God state is fundamentally a place of neutrality. It's the mode of observation rather than experiencing. So when I go back into my God state, I'm actually already in a pre-detached state. And depending on how deep I am in my God state, the more in my seat of awareness that I am. And when I'm more in my seat of awareness, I'm more in my seat of neutrality, because when you think about what awareness is, it's pure neutrality. It's literally just being aware of things. It's not judging things, it's not putting meaning on things, it's literally just awareness. So when it comes to reality selection, I go back to my God state to start off my manifestation process or my reality selection process from a pre-detached state of being. And then it's at that point that I simply just ask myself, what is it that I actually want, and do I believe that I can have this reality? And what I do when I ask myself those questions is I basically turn these, I call them knobs, within my system to make sure that I'm aligned with the reality that I want to experience. The way that I know that I'm in alignment is when I feel a level of relief. I'm not only clear on what it is that I want, and I not only believe that this reality is possible for me, but I feel chill about it. Like, I just know that I can have it, even though I am not experiencing it in this current present moment of when I'm actually selecting the reality that I want to experience. When it comes to robotic affirmations, it's basically doing the exact same thing as reality selecting. I'm picking the reality that I want to experience, and I am indicating that the end result of what it is that I want is the string of words that I choose as my robotic affirmation. I know that that reality is possible for me, and then I simply affirm to neutrality, which is a detached state of being. So getting back to the original example of how many times do I affirm, or how many times do I actually persist in a given moment that I am selecting for the reality that I want to experience, the answer, like I said, that I have to this question is I persist until I am neutral, or I persist until I feel aligned with the reality. Once I feel aligned in my mental world or in my mental reality, that's when I will go and integrate back into my physical reality and then act as if, or be as if. Or sometimes I will just put it down and I will go do something else. Acting as if isn't always just about behaving like you have the thing that you want, or like taking on an action that you associate with that identity. Sometimes it's just actually going to live your life. Like, for example, when it came to my first bigger manifestation, when it came to money, one of the affirmations that I had for this was, I am a wealthy person. And so I would basically use that affirmation. I would affirm that affirmation, I'm a wealthy person, I'm a wealthy person, I'm a wealthy person. And I would affirm it to neutrality. Once I got to neutrality, I would completely drop it and I would go act as a wealthy person would. And all I mean by go act as a wealthy person would was I didn't go out and necessarily like buy just random stuff to buy it. I would just like walk around my reality like I already had the thing that I wanted. I would ask myself the question like, okay, if I was truly wealthy right now, like what would I be doing? And the answer usually was something along the lines of, oh, I'd go live my life. I would probably just be existing in my reality exactly as I am right now, but doing the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. And so that's what I would do. So sometimes I would affirm to neutrality and then be like, you know, I'm kind of hungry, and then I would go eat food. I would put the affirmation down because I was that person at that point. I affirmed to neutrality, I found that stable level of neutrality, and then I would just go integrate back into my physical reality and embody the state of the wish fulfilled, which was, again, neutrality and indifference, because that fundamentally is the state of having. It's the same thing when it comes to reality selecting. When it comes to reality selecting, after I've already clarified what it is that I want and I know that it's possible for me and I know what it looks like when I have the thing that I want, what the persisting looks like for that is I will literally be going about my reality, like living my reality, integrating back into my physical reality, and as I go about my day, sometimes the awareness of what I am manifesting will come back into my consciousness. When that happens, I will re-remind myself of what it is that I want, and as long as I don't feel unaligned, which is like an anxious, sometimes like lacking feeling, as long as I don't feel that, it's literally just a process of re-reminding myself of what it is that I want and that I can have what I want. And it's very quick. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I want. And then I will go back to my physical reality. As you can tell with both of these processes, there's a point in time where I actually put down what I am focusing on in my imagination because I already have a higher level of security from the detachment knob or from the level of neutrality that I have reached. And for the record, you can actually do this with any type of manifesting. So for example, if you're someone who likes to script, there's going to come a point in time where you stop writing. My recommendation for you is before you even start the process of scripting, know where you're ending. And what I mean by that is know what state that you want to end in when you finish your script. Because you don't want to be writing forever. The goal isn't necessarily to always be using your imagination to, feel the end state of the wish fulfilled. There's a point in time where you actually want to just put it down and be as if. Especially when it comes to these transformational manifestations, because yes, you could just live in your head all day and be in the reality in your head all day, but the point of manifestation is materialization, like in your physical reality. So my whole point in saying this is that when you start the script, know that you want to end on a feeling of relief, like you just wrote out your reality and now you can go live as if your reality has just been created. The main point that I want to drive home when it comes to how often you want to persist in any given moment is you actually want to have an ending point to your persisting in the period of time that you're actually activating your imagination. Because from my own personal experience, you can actually over persist. And the reason why I say this is because sometimes what can happen when we aren't secure in our own ability to manifest something is we can start persisting however we decide to use our imagination, whether this is like us just reality selecting, using a robotic affirmation, scripting, however we're using, like I said, our imagination. What can happen is in a given moment where we are, activating our imagination, what can happen is we can reach a point past neutrality that gets us to anxiousness or not having, where even if we are persisting either in the imaginal act or in the affirmation, we start persisting basically because we are insecure about whether or not we should keep persisting or not. So if you're starting to get to the point where you are persisting and then you have these thoughts in your head like, oh my gosh, well, how many times do I persist? Like, am I doing it enough? Is my subconscious mind saturated? Like, if you start to have those kind of thoughts as you're persisting, it's at that point that you actually want to go back and try and affirm to neutrality. Once you're at neutrality, put it down and go live as if. Live like you already have your manifestation. Ask yourself, if this version of me already existed and the reality that I wanted was already here and now, what would I be doing? A lot of times your answer will be something along the lines of, I'm going to go just live the life that I want to experience right now. Do it within your means and do it within your own comfortability. But my whole point in saying this is that you don't necessarily need to go take action on your manifestation. You just need to live as if. So like I said, in my example where I was affirming I'm a wealthy person, I didn't necessarily go out and just like buy random stuff because that's what wealthy people did, or that's what I thought wealthy people did. I was living from the perspective of what I wanted to do. After I put the persisting down, or the use of my imagination down, I would just go live my life. And it was different in every moment. My whole point here though is get to a stable level of neutrality and or alignment, depending on what manifestation process that you are using. Find higher levels of security in the knowing that neutrality is the state of being of having, because it's going to feel very normal and natural for you when you actually have your manifestation. And feeling secure in that state of neutrality is going to be the very thing that makes you feel like you can actually put the use of your imagination down. And then when it comes to the question of how long do I persist on like a larger scale, the answer to that question is I persist until I get what I want. Sometimes I find it helpful to actually create a schedule of when I'm going to persist for each manifestation. Sometimes I will do it more intuitively. Like I'll reality select when I feel like doing it. But I'm doing it from the perspective of knowing that this is what it would be like if it were normal and natural for me to have it already in my 3D reality. If you're manifesting something that you don't feel fully aligned with, or you feel like you feel a little bit anxious about it, or you find you notice that the old reality is more in your state of consciousness rather than the new reality, I would recommend creating a schedule to start off with, just so you can maintain consistency throughout your day and feel secure in the fact that you are actually persisting throughout your day. And I would recommend persisting or reselecting the reality that you want in random parts of your day where you're not really thinking or actively using your mind to make a decision, like driving, for example, or washing dishes. Those kind of like passive activities where you're just, you know how to do the activity and your mind's somewhere else. That's when I would use your imagination to either affirm or reality select what you want to experience, or persist in the reality that you want to experience. So for example, for me personally, one of the pockets of my day that I use for this practice of persisting is actually when I'm driving to the gym. I don't really have to think about it. I know how to get to the gym. I know how to drive a car, and it's usually sometime in the morning as well. So I'm more in that drowsy state. But that pocket of my day is actually dedicated to a specific category of my life for manifesting, and where I'm actively using my imagination to persist in the end result that I am manifesting. Another reason why I like this pocket of my day for manifesting, or for using my imagination to focus on the end result, is because there's a point in time where I have to park the car and get out of the car and go to the gym, right? And I use that as my ending point for when I'm going to drop my persisting or drop the use of my imagination. And I make sure that when I actually park the car and get out of the car, I am at that point of neutrality, or the state of alignment, which, like I said, feels like this level of security. It feels like this level of relief. Like I am clear on what it is that I want. I know that I can have it. I just use my imagination to reselect the reality that I want to experience. And now I can put it down and go work out at the gym. The main point that I want to leave you with when it comes to how often you want to be persisting in your manifestation is you want to persist until you feel like you are back in alignment, or until you feel aligned with the reality that you want. It's not about necessarily a specific length of time or a specific number of times you affirm something. From my perspective, it's actually from the state of being that you can get to when it comes to activating your imagination. And for me, as you guys probably know at this point, my power seat is neutrality. Once I'm neutral and I know what it is that I want, and I know that I can have what it is that I want, I feel that higher level of security to the point where I know that I can put the manifestation down, or the use of my imagination down, and go live my life, embody the state of the wish fulfilled, or live as if. And then obviously I keep persisting until I get what it is that I want. So I hope this video helped clarify those questions of, how often should you affirm, or how long should you affirm for in any given moment, or how often should you reality select, or use your imagination. Use your imagination until you get to a stable level of alignment. Once you're at that stable level, put it down and go live as if. What would you already be doing if you already had your manifestation? You probably just go be living your life as usual. The only difference is that you would have your manifestation. So pretend like you already have your manifestation and act as if. But with all that being said, I'm going to end the video here. Definitely let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. As always, I love hearing everyone's different perspectives. But that's all for now. Until next time, keep creating, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.